everyone. Welcome once again to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Vince!
Vince, you'll never believe this, but last week, something happened to me in a parking lot that I think proves the existence of the Matrix.
Oh! You see, I thought there was going to be something horrible about a four-letter word that starts with R.
Oh, no. No, not that, but it was...
There's a lot of
different.
leaves there, and you got raped.
So anyway, I'm at a parking lot at night, and we went to Dave and Buster's to play video games, right?
Yeah.
And there was a black cat that walked across our path, across the parking lot, and then not 5 seconds later, another black cat walked in the exact same place, and my wife, and I told Sarah didn't see it, and I told her, I said, Sarah, I just saw a black cat, and then another black cat that looked just like it walked across. She looks completely deadpan, right in my eyes, didn't skip a beat. She said, were they the same cat?
Were they the same? They ran around the building real quick.
No, it's a Matrix reference.
Yeah.
And then but I mean, like, she immediately made it the Matrix reference, and I looked at her and I said, I think they've changed something.
You go back in, the only cool video game that was in the entire place is gone.
Yes, that's what they changed, Vince. They just wanted the two black cats means no one wanted me to play video games that night.
Somewhere, Agent Anderson is sitting around having a really good time.
Agent Anderson?
Or whatever that guy's name
Agent
is.
Smith?
Agent Smith.
Who says Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
You need to brush up on your
Oh
Matrix.
my god, it's been so long since I've seen the Matrix.
Wow. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about video games and our things that we know so much about, and our question actually comes from two different people. Two different people gave us pretty much the same question. Both Nightspawn and Mr. Decepticon Leader, and the question basically is: why do most superhero video games suck? Why are most of them kind of not so good? That's the question today. And keep in mind, of course, that this question was given to us. I want to say well before Arkham City came out, but besides Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, for the most part, most superhero video games are not great.
Well, you're right. I mean, here's the deal. Here's what I think it is. I think that comic book video games, not entirely unlike movie video games, are trying to be sold on a name, and so therefore they put less thought into it. So they don't try as hard when they're creating a game. And then, of course, we have things like Arkham City where people are like, I tell you what, if we make a really cool game based on a character that everybody knows, you think most people would buy it? And the answer is yes, apparently.
Well, a lot of it has to do with who they have make them.
Yeah.
And when you get into stuff like Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, and you actually have people who have worked on Batman in comics writing your material, naturally it's going to be a little bit better. Now that has happened with other things also, but then they just didn't have the gameplay behind it, and some of that has to do with what studios are making them, just who they have in house, and if they have the right people to make that kind of game, But I mean,
I hate to reference Punisher, but they had Garth Ennis write the Punisher video game. It wasn't very good, but there was a lot of cool things about it. Mm-hmm. There's just things, like when you play the Punisher game, there are just things that you realize they could have tried a lot harder. Like, they give you lots of cool features, but they didn't give you the little specific things that make you believe that they really worked on the game. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, Shattered Dimensions was written by Dan Slott, and the Iron Man 2 game, I think Fraction wrote that. I think. So I'm just saying, I mean, like, I think that they're trying to put more care into it these days. Like, there's, like, a lot of these are still not that good, but at least they're taking the right steps forward. You know what I mean? Where it's like, where it's like, well, maybe the first thing we need is better stories, and I can see that. I mean, like you and I, Vince, have talked in the past about how, like, a good video game does not necessarily require a really good story because it's more about gameplay.
Yeah. Well,
but it helps. And then you get something like Arkham City where it's all so coalescing, like you needed a really good story for that game to work.
I would say, what was it? They say this about movies. You can make a bad movie with a good script, but you can't make a good movie with a bad script. Mm-hmm. I would say that you could make a bad game with a good script,
yeah,
and you could make a good game with a bad script.
I think so too. But you can't make a good game with crappy game mechanics.
Yeah. I mean,
you're almost talking about two different scripts, right? Where, like, you're talking about the script of the stuff happening, but then you have
what's script, more also known as code.
Yeah, but right, exactly. Script. Little bit of game humor there. Well done. But yeah, it's like there's more work going on. You know, you've got. Yeah. I mean, like honestly, I think it would be fair. It would be maybe fair to say it's harder to make a good video game than it is to make a good to write a good story.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that to some extent you can say
so many elements, right?
Yeah, I'm going to give King a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here because we'll say there's an art to making good gameplay. We'll say there's a craft to making something that's fun because, of course,
yeah, sure.
It's about knowing it's all about knowing what your audience, the consumers, are going to enjoy about the thing that you're making. What are those people out there? It's not about what can we give them. It's about what do they need for this game to be fun.
Yeah.
Like, for example, here's something that really, I enjoyed Shattered Dimensions. I thought the storyline was a little absurd, but frankly, I didn't care because it was fun to swing around as any other Spider-Man, it was fun to swing around. But the wall crawling was awful.
Yeah.
Like, you'd cling to a wall.
I agree.
You could climb up, down, left, right, but you couldn't climb up onto other surfaces. He did not exist in an environment that it made sense to climb around. Like, you never had any reason to attach to a wall until they made you attach to a wall. So, actually, there was a moment in that game where I had to attach to a wall. They made me attach to it, and then I jumped off of it, ran to the other side of the room, climbed up the other wall, and zipped to the top. Because they're like, oh, you're going to have to go through this gauntlet. And I was like, nope. So, I'm surprised they made that happen, but...
It seems to me that a video game would be an enormous undertaking. I mean, you look at the credits at the end of a game, and you look at how many people are involved, and then you start thinking about what all goes into it. And, fans are so demanding these days because it's possible to make things so ultra realistic now in a way that it never was before. And so people want, and when we're talking about like story games like this, I mean big hardcore gamers want every game to be as long as you could make it and have plenty of side stuff. And I mean the people will sometimes complain about how much video games cost, but in my head, if we were to actually get what we wanted every time, it'd be a $60 experience.
Yeah, that's what I was about. There's a reason why a movie's $20 and a video game is $60.
Yeah, and then what sucks is sometimes it does feel like you're spending too much when the game just didn't pan out. When it doesn't work right, and that's what's really sad. But I mean, like, if you think about it, okay. It's a game, but it's got all these cinematics, and it's got a visual component, and it's got a huge audio component. I mean, like there's so much going on. Because the thing about it is, think of any other kind of game, board games, card games. Those aren't easy to make work either, right?
Right.
You're gonna make the game mechanics work to where, like you said, it's fun, but then the goal makes sense and it's challenging and it's not all just based on random chance. And I mean, all of that is there in a video game plus about 100 other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the first part of this is just making a good video game is hard in general. And I would say that even. That, like a lot of other things, there have got to be way more bad games than there are good games.
I would say it's making a good anything is really pretty difficult. I mean, look at the movies. You get about 80% crap, and then there's about a 20% out there that ranges between good and pretty good.
But I think the reason for that is maybe different, right?
Yeah, well... I suppose the reason I'm using this analogy here is because you're going to have a lot of stuff that's going to fall below standards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the stuff that's going to be really good are the things that people have had time to really look at it.
Hasn't it?
But Brian Regan, we love you.
And you made a really good point earlier when you said that that a lot of this with superhero games is because of name recognition. I mean, if you can sell a game just because of what it's called,
yeah. I mean, I think a good example is Captain America, and I'm going to say, what was it? You said something to me about Captain America. I'll let you say that, and then I'll get to my point.
I don't know what we're talking about. Are you talking about the Captain America game?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember us having a conversation.
It was something about Arkham Asylum.
But I'll mention what I know about that game.
Yeah.
Basically, they kind of lifted the mechanics from Arkham Asylum and made that into a Captain America game. And where that broke down was they didn't give us, and I didn't play it, but I watched some videos on it, and what everybody was saying and what it looked like from the things I was watching was that they didn't give us an interesting environment. I mean, the reason Arkham Asylum works is because we're in one location the entire game, but it's a very interesting environment that we want to explore. We want to, and then the whole. I mean, I did a rewind on this. The whole story thing of like the going into the depths of hell. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like the environment was mirroring what your character was going through. You didn't have any of that with Captain America. You're just in a big giant bunker.
Yeah.
And it's not fun to look at, and every room kind of looks the same. And you didn't have that with Arkham Asylum. I mean, there was it's a really gritty, dark, gray place. But I mean, there's a lot of variety within that. Yeah. Wouldn't you say?
And I would say that a World War II bunker would be a significantly different environment if we were talking about like an actual World War II game as opposed to a Captain America game, because it's still lighter and fluffier in Captain America. I mean, you don't really feel like you're in a heck of a lot of danger. You're Captain America.
Good point.
But the reason I had you say that was so that I could say this.
Oh, sure.
When you look at the PS3 and Xbox 360 and the PC version of, the politically correct version of Captain America. But when you look at those three things in comparison to the Wii version, to my understanding anyway, the Wii had a Captain America video game in the works for a while before they were going to make that Captain America movie.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And what they did was they I'm sort of conjecturing here. I don't necessarily know this for certain. I'll admit that. But looking at video or a video of the gameplay of the Wii version of Captain America, I believe what they did was took what they had of Captain America, took some of the fun things that they took from their initial Captain America video game concept, and then just shoved it into, just rushed it, and then put out an inferior game. Like, if they'd really wow, English major. If they'd really taken the time to sit there and say, hey, I'm going to make a good game. Hey! I want to make a Captain America game that's entirely worthwhile. No, they wanted to release it at the same time that the movie did so that people would buy it.
That's right. I got to pause for a minute because I love that you said it like that, because how many superhero games have you put in 10 minutes in? You said, hey!
I'm disappointed!
Let's go back a few years, shall we? Let's go back to our childhoods for a moment and talk for a second about what superhero games were like when we were kids. Yeah. Do you miss side-scrolling beat-em-ups?
Yes, I really do.
I liked them.
Now they
didn't all work, some, but yeah, they do sometimes. That's right. There was a really good Batman Brave and the Bold one for the Wii that I quite enjoyed.
Back when the PS2 was still popular, they released Beautiful Joe, and that got a lot of rave reviews. I'm having trouble thinking of much. They came out with a new Contra game. Was that side-scrolling?
I don't know. I didn't play it.
Oh, crap. I wish I knew that.
But back in the 8 and 16-bit days, a lot of superhero games went for the side-scrolling beat-em-up thing, which makes a lot of sense for that for that genre.
They were going to release a Shadow beat-em-up with the new movie, with the movie that came out in '94. That was, and I played it actually. I found a downloadable version. I was like, well, it's not released, so this is hardly stealing.
Was it awful?
It was really weird. Like, you could only use your guns at specific times. You can only use your powers at specific times. Like, why? I'm not really the Shadow. I'm more Hagar from Final Fight, and here we go.
What's really interesting is that when we were kids, the Ninja Turtles side-scroller at the arcade was so popular and was so good that for a while there, when people thought of Ninja Turtles, the big things they thought of were the cartoon show, the live-action movie, and that game.
By the by, I recently picked up a Ninja Turtles PS2 game that has the ability to unlock the arcade game.
It does. I had that too, and then I hated that game. I couldn't play it. It's not very good, and so I couldn't even get that far to get it.
Stinks.
But they've got them on Xbox Live. You can download it for like $5 or something.
Crap.
So I actually have it that way. But
well, maybe I should have checked into the PlayStation Network.
And then Super Nintendo had a couple of really great ones that were a lot like that were just kind of sequels to that. Turtles in Time was really good, and stuff like that.
Well, my favorites are the NES Ninja Turtle games. I mean, here's the deal. You can come out with a lot of really decent games. I mean, I think most of the Ninja Turtle games that came out that were side-scrolling were fun. NES, Super Nintendo, whichever.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were some decent Batman games.
There really weren't any really decent ones.
Well, that's why I say decent, not good.
Yeah, because they were too hard. The ones in the NES, Return of the Joker was impossible, just freaking impossible. And I hate games where every time you get hit, you fall backwards, which I think that one did. I'm forgetting now, but but the one from the '89 film was okay. I actually went back recently and played that a little bit, and it's okay. It's just it's a little too hard.
I think it's the '89 one that I enjoyed, but that's the thing is that there were some games that I just could not... I would give up about a third of the way through because I would say, you know what, screw this. I was having a good time, but now that I've died a million times and I have to start at the beginning every time, screw this.
Yeah, because back then we didn't have a good concept of what difficulty for video games ought to be. And I think it actually took years and years before we really got it. And even still, sometimes we have that problem, right? But
Well, there are video games that are famous for just being hard.
Yeah.
Like Devil May Cry. They're like, oh, we're going to make you cry. Because this is a really hard game.
And I just feel like there's a difference between fair hard and unfair hard.
Well, I don't mind it when a game is just nearly impossible when it starts you from a reasonable point.
Well, and also, but it also kind of depends on why it's impossible, right? Like if it's hard to play because the controls are all wonky and messed up, that's not like good hard. That's You know what I mean? That's incompetent hard. It's like anything. If the game is really competent and it's just straight hard, you know what I mean? Mario 3 is hard.
Yeah, I suppose I would say that there's a difference between a really difficult game and a game that's poorly made.
Yeah, and then it's difficult because it's poorly made. Yeah, I know you weren't a Sonic fan.
Let's call it challenging. That makes more sense.
Yeah, I know you weren't a Sonic fan, but Sonic Spinball was a really competent game. Super hard, impossible. I never beat it. I could get to the third level. That's about as far as I could get. It was really hard.
Yeah. You know what bothers me a little bit is there are games that will hinge on whether or not you can have ammunition or whatever special juice powers the character's abilities. Mm-hmm. And I'll get to points to where I will have saved because I'm like, all right.
In Mario, it's coin juice.
Coin juice.
In Sonic, it's ring juice.
In Bebe's Kids, it's not something we can repeat.
You just keep talking.
But there are games that it's just really hard to it hinges so much on the idea of having whatever thing fuels your character, and if you save right after you've gotten past a boss fight or said hard part of the level, mm-hmm. then and you save, you're screwed because now you're having to play the rest of this level with no ammunition or no special juice.
Yeah.
I'm not saying PsyOps for the... I played PsyOps for the PS2, and I never went back to it because at one point I was just entirely out of this psionic energy that you had to use, and I had no more bullets, and basically I was running around getting shot and dying, and I saved! And I'm like, crap!
Going back specifically to the superhero thing.
Yes.
Because that's what this is supposed to be about. We don't talk video games much, so when we do, we just kind of go off. I would make the argument that a lot of the reason that so many that superhero video games have gotten kind of notorious is because more of them are movie tie-ins now than aren't. Movie tie-ins, cartoon show tie-ins, stuff like that. I would make the case that then I have to really think about it and see if I'm right. But it seems to me like more of the games that are just based on comics or just based on a character are better than the movie tie-in games. And also a lot of the ones that I'm thinking of that I think are good are kind of fighting games. Yeah. Fighting games seem to be kind of a safe zone for superhero games, right? Marvel vs. Capcom everybody always liked, and
but you said Capcom 3 was not so great.
Capcom 3 was just disappointing. It's solid. It's just I don't like it as much as 2 because it doesn't have as many characters. Like, it's disappointing because the people making that game seem to think that for fans it's more important that it has a 3D engine than anything, and I don't get that because it's not to me. Like, yeah, it looks pretty, but 2 still looks pretty. Like 2 still holds up for me.
Did you ever play Mortal Kombat versus the DC?
It's good.
It's good. Yeah,
it's good.
I wanted to play it. I haven't had the chance. Actually, it's really reasonable now.
Yeah,
it's $20.
I really enjoyed it. It's not. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good.
I don't expect perfection from games. I just
me neither. I just want it to be playable.
There are so many games out there that they didn't try at all. Like for example, going back to the NES. When they came out with the Silver Surfer game. Can I stop
for a second? Would you say that you... Yeah. But would you say that you and I are kind of less critical about video games than we are about other things?
I would say that I'm... It depends for me.
Okay.
Really, because here's the deal. For me, when it comes to a movie, I consider
myself such a novice that I don't like to be real ultra critical.
Here's the deal. I think that some people approach movies the way I approach video games. Like, when I approach a movie, it has to be a good story, and it has to have decent acting, and things of this kind. Like, I will break it down in elements and say, this is what makes a good movie, this is what makes a bad movie. But when I'm talking about video games, I know what I like, and I don't care if it's something else. Like somebody says, hey, Vince, here's a turn-based RPG. I'm like, just give me a D&D book, because frankly, I don't care what adventure or story you guys have lined out for me.
Yeah.
For example... I've been playing the DS version of Ghostbusters. Don't judge me.
No, I'm not. I'd like to know how it is.
And in comparison to the Xbox
you
and
can't
PS3,
compare it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. When you look at a game like the PS3 version of Ghostbusters, what you have is a game that immerses you. It's an experience.
Right.
And you're busting ghosts and you're having a great time.
Right.
And it's actually kind of scary. But when you're playing the DS game, what it is you're running a business, and you're having to bust ghosts to support yourself.
Oh.
And you're having to bust ghosts so that you can develop more equipment, so that you can... And then after you develop your equipment, you have to build your equipment, and then your story parts open up. So you're doing these random things around... Or not random, I suppose. You're going to these particular places that get ghosts, and... But you're going to the same places a lot of the time. And what bothers me about that is not that I'm busting ghosts. It's not that it's not the PS3 game, because, it's kind of fun and it's cute and it's something that you could pick up and play for 10 minutes and then put it away.
Well, and it's a different kind of thing. I mean, it's cool that they didn't just try to somehow port that they just made a different kind of... It's not even the same genre of gameplay. It's a different thing.
I mean, it's the same story.
Okay, cool.
Which is really weird, considering it... They made it They made certain things much simpler. It's like they condensed the what was cool about the video game so that they could fit in running a business. And running a business is cool and all, but when you have to, but when you realize that your game is being stretched and you're doing the same task repetitively, it becomes less fun. Like after an hour, you're like, oh, so there's only 8 chapters in this game or whatever there are.
There's a lot of handheld games like that too, where they try to increase hours of gameplay by having a lot of the same stuff pop up all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well be playing Tetris. so yeah, there's things about it. It's fun, it's cute, but it's not what it should be. Anyway, that's my point, I guess. That I don't remember where I was.
Yeah, I don't even remember how you got to that.
See, I wish I could pull it magically out to say full circle, but I think it's more like a squiggly, like 3 wavy lines.
It's not gonna happen. Well, anyway.
How many references can we fit into one show?
Here's the thing. What you're going to see happen in the future, ironically, with superhero games is just what you're seeing happening with superhero movies, which is everybody wants to be Batman. You know what I mean? It's so funny. We're seeing the same thing both ways. Every superhero movie wants to try to be the Batman Begins of whatever that is. And now all the superhero games are going to want to try, or not all of them, but the ones that are actually trying, are going to want to be, the Arkham Asylum of whatever that is. And what they need to be really careful of, well, it's the same thing as all those TV shows that were trying to be Lost after Lost, the ones that all got canceled after 13 episodes or 2 seasons, where a lot of these things, when they're really successful, people think that to recreate that success, you need to recreate an element of the thing that was successful. No, what made it successful, and I mean that with Lost, I mean that with Begins, I mean that with Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. What we're looking at are things that got popular because they were innovative. You know, so how do you be the Arkham Asylum of Superman? And Superman's infamous. There is no good Superman game. You know, I mean, like which I meant to mention earlier. I mean, how do you be the Arkham Asylum or the Arkham City of Superman or of Spider-Man? You don't do that by trying to be those games. You do that by figuring out that really innovative thing that puts you in the driver's seat and makes you feel like that character. Because that's why those games work.
I will say Death of Superman for the Super Nintendo was okay, but it was one of those things that was just impossibly hard.
Yeah, it is impossibly hard.
You know,
but I'm especially talking about like now that we have 3-dimensional games where things look more realistic, there is no good Superman game.
I think that what they should do, well, creating generally any superhero, is look at what the character's abilities are, and then say, all right, what should we do to make this character usable? Like, if you have an incompetent web-slinging and wall-crawling ability, you're going to have a crappy Spider-Man game. If you have an incompetent ability to fly as Superman, why are we making a Superman game? That should be if you're going to make him fly, which, by the way, if it's a Superman game, you should make him fly.
Well, you got to, yeah.
You have to find a way to make it, able to use. Like, Superman 64... Oh my
Impossible.
God.
I would make the case with Superman that is nigh impossible to make work. Just because, and I mean, like, I really hope someday somebody proves me wrong.
Yeah.
But the different, it's classically what the difference has always been between Batman and Superman. Superman's really, really powerful. So how do you make a game that's playable, has all of his powers that you can use at any time, and you don't have these silly things where, like, you have to unlock his powers, he's really underpowered just so that he can be hurt. Like, you can't have a Superman with a power bar. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah. So what do you do to make the game challenging but also make sense when you're Superman? And a lot of people's ideas, really it seems like the only thing people ever come up with are things where you come up with a story reason for him to be powered down.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really want that. I think people want to be able to figure out how to do it and not cheat it.
You know, I kind of like the idea of time frames. Like, I don't like the...
What do you mean?
Here's something that drives me nuts in video games, but it makes sense for Superman. Okay, I'm Spider-Man, and I have to get somewhere within 5 seconds. So
yeah,
but Superman, he has super hearing.
Oh, by the way, Spider-Man 2 for PS2 is a really good game.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that they had a very competent wall crawling and web slinging ability, and it didn't matter whether the storyline was competent because it was a lot of fun to play.
And the overall premise made a lot of sense because most of it was just running around helping people, which is what Spider-Man does.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that, Arkham City, after you beat the game, it kind of boils down to that. I mean,
sure.
They're when I think of, like, the standout superhero games,
and all the impossible to get Riddler trophies.
Yeah.
Have you done any of those Riddler trophies?
Oh yeah.
Have you done the ones where you have to throw the remote control Batarang?
Oh yeah.
Oh, those are fun, but they're really hard. Like.
Yeah, I did the one where you're throwing it through the little shafts and chutes and getting it in there.
It took me 20 minutes, but boy, I felt good when I got it, man.
My girlfriend sat there and watched me do it.
Sarah watched me do it too.
She's like, turn it!
That's just what we were doing.
She's actually really cute when I'm playing games because she'll start like throwing punches in the air, like get him. Anyway, anywho, superhero games. That's something else. That's an exact thing that you touched on, something that I thought of before the podcast and wanted to bring up. It was the bringing characters down to where they're a manageable level. Like, there's a game that I loved for the Super Nintendo because of everybody but the Hulk that was in the game. It was called War of the Gems.
I never played that.
And I really got a big kick out of it. It was a lot of fun. And then you play the Hulk, and he's so slow. And I'm like, you play the Hulk in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and he's so slow. And that's the thing, is that, okay, we're going to have this character who's really big and strong, and it's going to be really hard to hurt him. So what can we do? Well, I know the character should be able to run and jump for miles and miles, but let's just make him like this sloth-like of a human being. And
because he's not actually really slow. In the
if you want a good,
but in a lot of video games, you're right. It seems like if the character's big, he's got to be lumbering.
Yeah, I mean, for Juggernaut. Juggernaut should be able to be fast because he's unstoppable. I mean,
but only if you can do that move.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It really bothers me. If you want a good example of the Hulk's abilities, I mean, other than getting really big, that's not one of his abilities. But watch the Ang Lee Hulk, because there's a character that pretty well embodies the Hulk's abilities.
I can almost see Thing being more lumbering before I could see Hulk being lumbering.
That's the thing, is that see, the Thing
is
should
the
be
thing.
Yeah. See, that's the bend that he should. I wouldn't mind necessarily him being like walking slow, but he should be able to get around a bit.
Yeah.
Like, he shouldn't be able to jump high, but he should be a combat expert. He should be good at throwing people around. Like, if you get close to him, that should be hard for it. The way to beat the Thing? Ranged combat. That should be the only thing.
Did you ever play Marvel Nemesis?
Yes. Which one was that?
It was a fighting game.
Yes, I did play that.
And the only thing I didn't like about Marvel Nemesis was that half the characters were new made-up characters. Like, that was the only thing I didn't like about it.
Yeah.
Because it looked good, and it was pretty playable, and I kind of enjoyed the fact that it was a beat-em-up and a fighting game. Like, it had a really good two-player fighting thing, but then, like, the levels were, like, run around 3D beat 'em up stuff, and I mean, it was tedious, but I liked it. But the thing about that game was, you know how they got around characters that were like too powerful? They didn't. They just let them be too powerful. Once you get Magneto, you just can't. I mean, he's unstoppable because he's Magneto. And then you had other characters that, like they didn't even try to make all the characters balanced. They didn't even try. So like if you and I can kind of see a logic to that, where it's like, okay, let's make a video game where if you're Daredevil and you play against Magneto, you're going to lose every time.
Yeah.
Because you would. Daredevil's not going to beat Magneto in a fight.
Yeah, like Iron Man fighting against Magneto.
The only thing is, I don't think they went as far as to have it to where Magneto could control metal characters. I don't think they went that far. Wouldn't that have been great, though? Wouldn't it be great if in that game you could pick up Wolverine by his claws, bend him backwards, and put him against a wall,
and then rip out all of his adamantium? Oh yes.
Yeah, well, if you want the rated R, like, really disgusting the
thing they actually did in comics, let kids read.
Well, let's go ahead and go to rant, shall we, Vince?
Yeah, let's go to rants.
I'll do mine first, because mine's really short.
Go for it.
Have you noticed how these days they're making everything into a plush?
Yeah.
Just everything. Like, if it's a popular character and it can conceivably be made into a plush, some kid is sleeping with it somewhere.
Incidentally, there's some grown man probably sleeping with it as well.
Yeah, but we don't have to talk about that. Some of it is awesome. I love all the Mario plushes. I love that they've got these giant lines of Mario plushes. I think they're really cool. I really want a Ghost. I mean, like, they've got Chain Chomps. So cool. I draw the line at Transformers, okay? Yeah, I've seen this.
That's hilarious.
There are plush Transformers, and a lot of them are pillows. A lot of what I wanted to mention here was pillows. There's like all these like character pillows, and again, some of them work okay because they pretty much just look like big stuffed animals. Like, there's a Mario one, and like he's supposed to be a pillow, but he's Mario, and then he's just kind of really really soft, so he's a pillow. And you give him to a little kid, and he can sleep on him, and that's pretty cool. But and there's the Darth Vader one, which is hilarious, and I don't know what I think about that either. Like, it's a Darth Vader pillow. But I draw the line at Transformers. And you know why?
Because they're metal.
And they don't transform. See, that's the thing.
That's a
it's
good
like,
point.
if you make a plush Transformer, he ought to transform. Quick plug, did you know that Manos' girlfriend Lindsay makes custom plushes? And she has made plushes of Transformers that transform.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Those things would be expensive, though.
But these pillows I'm talking about... What adds insult to injury is that they're not like old school Transformers. They're like the movie.
I apologize for saying that. Surely they're affordable.
They're like, I don't know. I haven't priced them, but I mean, like, but these pillows. I mean, they're if they were like cartoon Transformers, I could almost see it. But they're like movie Transformers. That's not even cool. Like, it just looks stupid.
Yeah.
You can't make that cute. Like, you can't begin to.
You know, I think I've seen a plush Transformer that was cute, but it didn't look much like a Transformer.
Yeah, but it probably wasn't based on the movie. How do you make one based on those movie Transformers and make it cute? Like,
Well,
it's a giant hunk of metal.
How do you base it on the movie and make it cute? That's a good question. How do you base it on a Transformer and make it cute? I don't know. You just make it look kind of like a Transformer.
You can maybe get away with it, yeah.
Like those Pop Marvel and Pop Heroes ones, kind of.
Yeah.
They're cute, and they don't look a heck of a lot like the originals.
There are some characters that I think can kind of look cool and plush, and some I don't. And then, like, my wife and I debate about this a lot, believe it or not, because Sarah's like, you should never make Batman into a plush. It just doesn't. It just drives her crazy. She's like, no, that's not cool. It's Batman. Batman should not be a plush.
That's funny. Well, I don't think Batman should be campy, but people did it anyway.
But yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I told her. I said, Sarah, you like Adam West, so why are you bothered by this? I don't get it.
There is a plush Two-Face that I intend to get at some point.
Yeah, you totally should. Anyway, that's my rant. Go
ahead. This one might be a little too long, but I'm going to see if I can make it absolutely short. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
It annoys me when characters in film are irresistible to the opposite sex for no discernible reason. Like, people just, oh, well, he's a womanizer because women love him. Well, why do women love him? Well, because he's a womanizer. Well, that makes sense.
Vicious circle.
Like, oh, he's such a horrible ass to everybody, and women love him. Well, women like bad boys. That's not necessarily true. They don't like somebody that's going to be rude to them every day of the week. I mean, unless you're just a horrible masochist, but that's the thing, is that it annoys me when, like, he's not even charming, he's just a bad boy. Like, I could understand if you're ruggedly handsome and you don't really have any regard for your woman's feelings, and like, oh, he's a bad boy. I get it. But when he's just...
Usually that character, if he's the protagonist, is going to learn something about that, too.
Yeah, but when he's just a jerk, and women find him irresistible for no reason, that bothers me.
It's kind of sexist, isn't it?
Yeah, now maybe it's just me being in my present day... we have to be all touchy-feely and accept everybody regardless of race, creed, color, or gender. But it's just one of those things that I watch a movie, and it still happens today, where they're like, he's ruggedly handsome. And because men would like to think that they're ruggedly handsome and that women would be attracted to them regardless of how they act. Well, that's unrealistic. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and I also think that it's not just the PC thing that you're talking about. I get what you're saying, but I think part of it also is just from a story perspective, you're making all of your characters involved entirely unsympathetic at that point. Mm-hmm. You know, you've got a guy who's not making sense, and then the movie trying to make us think that he's cool because he's a womanizer makes the women look bad because they're they're fawning all over him.
Yeah, you're making your characters shallow in some way. I mean, here's the deal. I understand if your character is just, filthy rich, and women seem to be attracted to him. I get that. Because then you're not talking about people who have respect for themselves.
Yeah, and you're not talking about girls who have respect for that guy either.
Yeah, what you're doing when you create characters...
And that happens.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, when you create characters who have they don't have a red sense, and they don't really have anything that make them charming, why is it that people seem to be so attracted to them? It doesn't make any sense. Now, maybe that's just me and saying that's my... I'm trying to back out of this, saying that it's a little hard, that maybe it's a personal bias, that I don't find that character charming, and I don't see why anybody else would.
I don't think it's a bias at all. I think it's a problem.
But I think that in some cases it's true, in some cases it's not. I mean, there's a reason why Richard Castle in Castle has a lot of women fawning over him, because he's a really charming guy. Oh, it's hard for me to come up with a character right now off the top of my head, because I watched a specific movie that came out recently that drove me nuts. Anywho, I'm done.
All right. Well, thanks as always for listening to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast, and we'll be with you with another podcast in 2 weeks or less. And thanks again. We sure appreciate it. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.